All right, let's do a short presentation on Oldie's EATM Team Manager. Thanks for joining us. We're also streaming via WebEx. For those of you that are watching via WebEx, if you want to watch me as a talking head, turn on your video panel and you can see the video as well. We are broadcasting live from Automation Fair here in Orlando. What we're going to cover today is our EATM modules, and we'll take questions. And since we've got people here in the booth, feel free to raise your hand and ask a question, and we'll repeat it for the audience and try to make it dynamic, or you can wait till the end. The other thing we want to do is when we wrap up here today, we've got touchscreen monitors on either side of the corners of the booth. We have video clips that show the basics of how you get a module up and running, and also some advanced capabilities. We also have 2 stations set up. They're hooked up to actual hardware, and we can show you the system operating in real time. We have a tech session coming up in 30 minutes upstairs, and we're in room S331C. I'll have that detail at the end, and that's session T60. So when we wrap up here, what we'd like you to remember is we've got a simplified and cost-effective way to do plant-to-enterprise data exchange with our dedicated appliances, and these help you reduce costs. Whether it's an existing system where you're adding this, or a brand new system where you want to have connection, let's say, between ControlLogix and a database. Whether you're an end user or a system integrator, you'll benefit from this approach. So here's the slide about who we are. Online development, we've been around 21 years. We're headquartered in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we have sales offices in Europe, Latin America, and Asia Pacific. We focus on computing and communication platforms and factory automation hardware and software modules. We do them for Rockwell Automation, ProSoft, as well as under our own brand. And our main focus is the design of off-the-shelf automation products. We're a Rockwell Global Encompass partner. We are, I'm losing my microphone here, there we go. We're very active in Control Systems Integrator Association, the CSIA. We participate in the Oracle, IBM, and Microsoft partner programs, and active in ODVA. So what do? What does a EATM Team Manager do? Well, left side there we're showing a computer system, set of blades, that could have a SQL database in it, an Oracle database in it. On the right-hand side, we're showing a whole selection of PAC PLCs, most of them Rockwell, and that's mostly what we connect to, and a few select other systems from Schneider and Siemens. You could have all of these connected on one system through the front panel Ethernet, or you could be talking through the backplane through bridge modules to some of the older Rockwell controllers. The intended application for an EATM is transactional relational data exchange. We have 2 form factors, the ControlLogix module form factor, a single slot module. We also have what we call a standalone, and that's a panel mount. Now, what you give up with that is you don't have your backplane interface, but you still can communicate through the Ethernet port to various controllers, and the other Ethernet port typically going up to the database. There's a module running on top of our demo stand there on the right-hand side of the standalone. Now, either version is optimized for data transaction handling. It's not a historian, though, and it's more than a gateway. So if you attend the tech session at 3 o'clock, we'll talk a little bit about what each one of those is optimized for. And what I mean is what's a historian good at and what's this type of product good at. So why do we call it an appliance? Well, the idea is we have a configuration environment. You configure and go. You don't write code. You never see a command prompt. There aren't any installation services. So the idea is with this dedicated product, you reduce your install and your ongoing maintenance costs. So what is involved with the product? Well, what the product does is give you a graphical environment, and we'll show that here in just a minute, where you're doing data mapping. You're setting up triggers on the data you've mapped. Built into the module is capability to do local buffering should you lose connection, and that's also known as store and forward. What we've added with the latest version, and we've had this out for a couple of years now, is failover. And you can define one or more locations should you lose your primary connection you can start transferring data to and from the secondary locations. We have extensive logging on transactions, and this is totally configurable in terms of how little or how much logging you want to do. Now, if you were going to use one of these modules, you would contact us. You'd say, I'm using MS SQL, I'm using Oracle, I'm using DB2, typically one database or maybe a messaging adapter like JMS. On the other side, we have the automation adapter, and we've got drivers for Rockwell, some of the Siemens and Schneider. The Siemens, it's S7 Industrial Ethernet, and the Schneider, it's TCP, Modbus TCP. The benefits in applying this type of module, it's easy to configure, low cost to maintain, and you have better system security. The fundamental steps, the basic steps, and you may end up doing these multiple times with multiple controllers, is defining the path to the controller or controllers, defining the path to the database, mapping that data, and that's what we'll show here with a video clip here, and then defining the trigger, what triggers the transfer of data according to that map, and of course putting the module into run mode.
Now we're going to go to your project editor program on your Team Manager again, and we're going to go up and define a new map. In this particular map, we're going to do an insert into the database. So we'll be gathering information off of the controller. These are the tags we pulled down before. Now we're going to also output to our Microsoft SQL database. We're going to choose one of the tables that we downloaded before. We're going to place the entire table list into this output. Now you'll see all the variables that came over. You can see the variable type here to the right. And we'll go and search on our controller tags to gather one of the variable names that we want to use as our inputs. Here's the structure we used before. We can grab all the variables and drag them over. We have a date code here that we need to supply, and so we can supply the time off the module using the macro called timestamp. We'll drag it down into the position to be directly across from the date code. Then we can provide a couple of them that are constants even. So we can say it's pallet station 4 for the pallet area. And then the product code could be another variable coming from the controller, or it can be also a constant. So right now we'll just put another constant in here. We can connect the values together. It's going to give us a warning in case it believes we have a conversion error of any kind. At this time we can say, okay, we've just saved the map. So when we do our insert and the trigger fires, all the information on the left-hand side would be placed into the right-hand side's table. That video in its entirety and how you set up a trigger available on the touch screen is also available on the web. So let's talk briefly about low cost to maintain. First of all, there's some tangible out-of-pocket costs. We'll touch on uptime availability and costs associated with that, and also some advantages in terms of training and reuse. So, you know, tangible things, and we don't have an annual maintenance fee, and we don't charge for the GUI. I mean, that's in the box. From an uptime availability point of view, this is not an open computer. There's an embedded operating system in the module. You never see it. You just deal with it through the config software. So you don't have any of the issues you might have running on a gray box or a white box with operating system updates. And similarly, since it isn't an open PC, it's virus resistant. We have a single file to do restore. So if you ever did have to do a module swap, you know, it's one file gets you back up and running once you do the exchange. And we have email notification, and you can set that up in any of your triggers and transfers, and it's, you know, for as little or as much information as you want to be inundated with. From a training and reuse perspective, if you got to know this module for Microsoft SQL and the next job is Oracle, you know, other than Oracle's offers a few additional like stored procedure type capabilities that we support, you know, you've learned one, you know the rest. So on a security point of view, once again, because it is virus resistant, that's a good security feature. From a network security perspective, we support persistent routes through gateways. So, you know, your IT or your network security people can help, you know, set this up so you can coexist with that. And we have actually a video module on that as well on the touchscreens. There's only access through the T-Manager software, the GUI software. That gives you granular user privileges, so you can set up password access on that. And there's no way to access this through FTP or Telnet or remote desktop. So once again, we believe that's a security advantage. So in the end, this module is intended to enable data exchange for enterprise to controller applications, ERP, MES, a couple examples. You're configuring your data transfer. You're not doing any programming or any scripting. We support adapters for a couple flavors of JMS, Microsoft SQL, Oracle, several versions of DB and the DB2 family for IBM, MySQL, Excel Access, and a few others that are a little more off the beaten path, TCP, UDP, bidirectional email, FTP. On the automation side, we've got drivers for Rockwell, Siemens, Schneider controllers, full support for really anything that's shipping today from Rockwell. The Schneider and Siemens are a little more selective. Build and store and forward for the local buffering, and failover if you want to define alternate locations to keep your data flow, data exchange going. And overall, we believe this gives you a pretty robust, easy to configure, and maybe more importantly, reconfigure data transfer solution. Some of you may have used the product before, and just here's one slide on what's new in the latest release. We're supporting the latest ControlLogix, the L7X line, the latest version of Red Hat's JMS JBoss, and we now have record set result set support for MS SQL and also support for Oracle stored procedures. And we've added something called functoids. We didn't invent the name, but we're using it. This would allow you to do data conversion, string manipulation, and math functions sort of on the data as it goes from the ControlLogix to, let's say, the database, or I guess you can go either direction, right, Lori? You can pull functoids to work either direction? Oh, only out. Okay. All right. Well, I just thought I'd ask. We've improved the GUI. We've enhanced the logging. We've added more network diagnostics. And for those of you who have used earlier releases, any of the 2.x releases before 2.4, you can upgrade. I mentioned the touchscreen videos and testimonials. Those are on the corner stands. Feel free to see our folks to do a one-on-one with actual software live, dealing with an actual module and other controllers. We've got a tech session coming up here in less than 20 minutes in S331C. We have 2 customers that will talk about their applications, and you'll get to hear me again. One's a mining application. One of them are consumables for glucose monitors. That's the LifeScan. There's an integrator here at the show that's used the module pretty extensively, Stone Technologies. They're on booth 617, so please visit them. And you can always go online. So I appreciate your time. Enjoy the show. And those of you that are watching via WebEx, this material is available through the website, and you can review it again. Thank you very much.